happy Wednesday. Welcome back to another real estate stream. And you guys know the drill. It's Wednesday, it's 6:30. It's time to talk about real estate. And today we are talking about how Trump is considering declaring a housing emergency and what that could mean, what the implications could be. What does that mean for buyers? What does that mean for sellers? What does that mean for the market overall? Obviously, we're used to kind of like these emergency declarations when there's major national crisis or natural disasters. Let's see what the plan is for declaring a state of emergency when it comes to housing. So we're going to be talking about that. We also are going to be talking a little bit more about the Fed shakeup. Last stream, we talked about Lisa Cook getting fired. And we knew that there was going to be a lot up in the air. We knew that Lisa basically said, I'm not going down without a fight. And that was sort of where we left things last week. And in the last few days, some things have materialized, and it looks like, things are getting really interesting on that front. So we'll be also talking about an article about that. And then we're also going to be taking a look at one of the most expensive condos I've ever seen. I just saw it pop up, and it's just an exorbitantly expensive condo in Massachusetts. So we're going to cruise Zillow, and we're going to take a look at that. So anybody that's got a $50 million budget looking for a condo in Boston, we might have found the listing for you. So pay attention if you're in that $50 million purchase price bracket. As always, guys, at any time, if you have any thoughts, any questions, if you maybe you're thinking about buying a house or selling a house and you want to ask a real live real estate agent, you can go ahead and pop those into the comments, into the chat. Always enjoy hearing from you guys. I always like knowing where you're watching from, and I always like knowing what you think about whatever we're talking about. The best part about live streaming is interacting with all of you guys. And before we get started and we talk about what Trump's going to do, right down here somewhere, there's a little thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. Please like the stream. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Both those things are free and they just help me out. And you'll also be notified of new videos and live streams if you do subscribe to the channel. So please take a second, hit that like. Thanks, guys. All right. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with this crazy $50 million property in Boston. Let me get this up on the screen. Boom. Okay, bingo. There we go. So here we have it, 150 Seaport Boulevard, unit GPH. I've never seen a unit that had three numbers, and I only wonder if it's like, did it absorb all three units and they made like one like mega unit, because this thing is friggin' 10,000 square feet for a condo. 6 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms. Yikes. $50 million. But get this, $22,000 a month in HOA, almost 23. Let's call it $23,000 a month in HOA. That is, friends, that's insane. That's insanity. I don't even know how in HOA, like there's like concierge, private docs, valet. Like, I don't even know how you get $23,000 a month in an HOA payment, but yikes. That's an expensive one. So let's take a look. Let's go through the description first. Let's see. All right. So it's been on for 92 days on Zillow. Well, it's $50 million. So I'm not surprised. This is not going to be one of those homes that sells quickly. Very interesting here. Tons of views and actually a ton of saves in the last 30 days, 777 saves. I think this is all people going like, look how crazy this is. I don't think this is like 777 people like, ooh, I need to save this and show my husband or wife so that we can consider taking a look at it. Experience a new echelon of luxury living at the Grand Penthouse, the crown jewel of the St. Regis residences. Encompassing over 10,000 square feet across 2 dramatic levels, this one-of-a-kind home sits atop Boston's iconic seaport, offering panoramic views of Boston Harbor and the city skyline through soaring floor-to-ceiling windows. Now, I don't know my Boston area. I don't know if like Seaport is this amazing thing. I'm going to take a look at this thing on the map. I would have to imagine that this is like in the heart of downtown Boston. I don't know what that constitutes. I don't know if that's coveted or desirable. I would imagine that it is, but I would have to imagine for 50 million bones, this place is going to have an amazing location. Designed with extraordinary attention to detail, the residence features a double height great room, a sculptural curved floating staircase with glass railings, and a grand foyer with an Italian marble radial inlay floor. Every element is curated for refined living and entertaining at scale. The outdoor living experience is equally extraordinary, including a custom infinity edge pool with clear acrylic bottom and a retractable Libart international glass roof. The sweeping water views from every angle, blending the privacy of custom home with legendary service of the St. Regis brand. The grand penthouse is a truly rare offering Boston has never seen. Let's take a look at the map view. And if anybody's familiar in chat with like the Boston area, I would love to know, is this the place to be? I would imagine, let's take a look here. Okay, so we got an airport, probably whatever Boston's airport is. All right, so here we are. Now all these little islands and stuff, kind of interesting. So interesting. I would have thought it would have been like somewhere maybe here or here. This kind of seems like a weird spot. It seems kind of like industrial. I don't know if maybe this is where cruise ships come into port. Maybe that's possible. It doesn't seem like it's like that great of an area. But I can see there's a lot of high density. But like, it seems kind of like commercialized. I don't know what this giant building is, like all of this. It doesn't look like a downtown. Like it doesn't look like hip or trendy. Like it's like over here. Like this looks fun. This looks cool. There's a giant park, some tree-lined streets. There's probably, good downtown area. But I don't know. I don't know Boston. I'm literally just going off of a satellite view. So there we have it. In the thick of things. Let's get back to the listing. Let's take a look at some of these photos. All right, guys. 6 bed, 10 bath, 10,600 square feet, $23,000 a month in HOA. Whew, 50 million bones. Let's see what it gets you. So right off the bat, this is the sculptural staircase with the radial that's inlaid from some tile from Italy. Really cool views. I mean, that is gorgeous. Already, like, it's kind of an ostentatious style, but for 50 million, I guess that's the type of person that's probably going to be buying a house like this. Wow, that's pretty cool. Obviously, very modern, very contemporary feel. Personally, not my thing for 50 million, right? Not my thing. I like, what do you do with all this space? I guess you got 10,000 square feet, you don't do anything. You just have it. I mean, it kind of gives me like Miami in the 80s vibes a little bit, like, does that, I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but it kind of gives me that. This is pretty cool. This is a pretty neat pool. I'm sure all this opens up, of course, right? That's a pretty cool pool. Oh, and it's got the lighting at night. It looks like we have a jacuzzi on this side, spa on this side, and maybe like more of a pool on this side. Stunning views. That's really amazing. Oh, that's kind of neat. I didn't see this in the first photo. I don't, that wasn't in the first one. Is this like the second story? Because the walls look different too. Interesting. Not sure what's going on. Okay, so formal dining with tons of views. This must be like upstairs or something. I wonder if this is 3 stories. Oh, this is like completely different. Interesting. I wonder if these don't look like renderings to me. This is a very cool bar area. But I'm confused because like this is not the same couch that was in the previous photo. This was a little bit different. It's like similar but different. I don't really get it. I wonder if this is, I bet you this is a rendering. I'm surprised they don't have actual photos. Maybe the building's not, no, the building's there. Interesting. So maybe this unit's still being constructed. But there you go. That's what 50 million bucks will get you in Boston. Yikes. Pretty amazing. See, these look like actual photos. The other ones looked more like renderings. I think these are actual photos of the unit. And the other ones were rendings. But there you guys have it. In case you are a $50 million buyer and you need a condo that's got a little bit of elbow room, here you go. Here it is. So if you're interested in something like that, reach out. I'll get you the information and we'll sell you a $50 million condo. I'm sure there's multiple people right now in chat that are buyers at this level. So don't wait. Act quickly because it could be gone before you know it. So All right, guys, let's switch gears. Let's get down to the good stuff. We're talking about Trump and how he's considering declaring a national housing emergency this fall, which is right around the corner. Yeah, point blank, honestly, point blank, you were actually the one I thought of when I saw that listing. I was like, you know who would love this? Point blank would love this listing. So if you're interested in it, I'll meet you in Boston. We'll go take a look at it. So let me know when your flight arrives and I'll hop on a plane. You hop on a plane. I got a great agent in the Boston area too. And we'll go take a tour. We'll go take a look at it. Let me know when you're ready, point blank. All right, guys. So this came out just yesterday. This is from realtor.com. And this has kind of been the latest bombshell, I guess, that is rocking the real estate finance industry. Trump considers declaring national housing emergency this fall. This came out just yesterday from realtor.com. So as you guys know, trying to stay with the recent and current information. So we're going to take a look at this. I just really quickly glossed this article earlier today when I heard the news that they were kind of talking about doing this. So it'll be interesting to see how they elaborate on this and kind of what they're aiming for here. Let's see what we got. All right. The Trump administration is considering emergency measures to address the housing affordability crisis that has left millions struggling to pay rent and priced out of homeownership, Treasury Scott Bessent said Monday. We may declare a national housing emergency in the fall, Bessent told the Washington Examiner. We're trying to figure out what we can do, and we don't want to step into the business of states, counties, and municipal governments. Well, that's going to be hard to do because housing is oftentimes solved at the local level. And we've talked about this before. What can the federal government really do aside from making money available for home buying programs, down payment assistance, first-time home buyer, things like that, or providing tax incentives to either home buyers or home sellers that sell to home buyers? That's really the only way the federal government can really do anything. And even then, it's a tricky situation, especially for a GOP-led government as we currently are at the moment, because GOP and Republicans are all about like, hey, states' rights, local rights, like federal government, smaller government. We're not going to tell you how to run your stuff. Well, when it comes to housing, a lot of the stuff has to be done at the local level. Like I said, the federal government in the past has done first time home buyer grants and down payment assistance, things like that. There have been ideas floated about maybe giving tax incentives to people who sell their home to first time home buyers or sell a home that's average price. But then you have a problem, and then you're incentivizing people to you're kind of cooking the market because you're incentivizing sellers to sell to a specific demographic. And then you have to think, well, does that violate some type of fair housing? Because, and is that fair? Is that a fair sale, right? Because the government's going to incentivize this one group and it's going to incentivize a seller to sell to this one group. Was that fair to everyone else? I don't know. So there's some sticky things there. So this whole idea of, yeah, we want to do this, but we don't want to step into the business of states, counties, or municipal governments. It's going to be a tough one to navigate on that. Bessent declined to list any specific actions under consideration by the president, but said that administration officials are studying ways to decrease closing costs and nationally standardize the local patchwork of building and zoning codes. Yes, this is because Bessent declined to list any specific actions because there aren't any. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens and what they decide they can do. In a separate Labor Day interview with Reuters, Bessent said that solving the housing affordability crisis was an all-hands-on-deck challenge for the Trump administration. In an Oval Office press conference on Tuesday, President Donald Trump confirmed an emergency declaration on housing affordability is under consideration without offering specifics. Of course, they won't offer specifics because they don't know what they're doing yet. Spokespersons for the White House and Treasury Department did not immediately respond to questions from Realtor.com about what a declaration of national housing emergency might entail because they don't know. Pause that. There's Mr. Bessent addressing at this Oval Office meeting. Talk of the emergency measure comes at a time when Americans face deep struggles to afford housing, Relative to income, home affordability is near a 40-year low, and nearly half of renter households are cost burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on rent. This is a story that we've heard time and time again. Nothing new here with any of this. We know this. For the better part of 5 years, Americans have been feeling the crunch of housing affordability. There's a lot of reasons for that. General reasoning is between 2010 and 2020, we didn't build housing. We just didn't do it in the United States. We didn't build housing. And also during that time, millennials were coming of age. It was basically a perfect storm. Then COVID hits and you get rock bottom interest rates. You get money being handed out because, again, the federal government wanted to avoid a recession. And we got into a situation where interest rates very, very low. The economy was stimulated with a lot of money. People really wanted to buy homes during COVID because they were sick of being cooped up. And on top of all of that, millennials were turning 30 to 35 years old, which is the ripe home buying age. When you put all that together, you get a housing crisis. You get people overbidding, multiple bids, prices running way up, economy getting overheated. And now we're facing the repercussions of that as the market cools down quite a bit. However, any federal attempt to tackle the housing crisis will have to face the harsh reality that most of the key policies that influence housing supply are set at the state and local level. Gosh, it's almost like I know a little bit about what we're talking about. It's weird. It remains unclear exactly what kind of emergency measures the administration could take to address housing, or even if using emergency powers in this way is lawful, says Realtor.com senior economist Joel Berner. The best ways the administration can make an impact are by encouraging the building and purchase of homes. Interesting. It says, we don't even know if emergency powers in this way is lawful. Well, that seems to be the motto of the Trump presidency in term 2 here is let's just do stuff and we'll figure out if it's legal later. Evidenced by stuff with some of the tariffs coming out saying, well, it turns out we can't do the tariffs. Oh, and then also turns out Trump can't send the National Guard to LA, which that's not real estate related. It's a whole different topic. But the point stands that very clearly the administration is like, we'll just do it first and we'll ask for forgiveness later. Forget permission, easier to ask for forgiveness. Berner suggests that finding ways to streamline the permitting process for home builders and put fewer restrictions on builders could help boost housing supply, particularly in heavily regulated high-cost areas like the Northeast, which is true. The downside to that is people, you're going to get NIMBYs, which people love to just say, oh, NIMBYism is a problem. Like that's a problem. Well, I get it. But also too, you have to have some respect for the people that bought into a community, lived there. It's had a certain way of life for 30, 40, 50 years. And then all of a sudden the developer is going to come in and just say, well, we're going to put in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 stories, or we're going to build 198 units where there used to be 16. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like when their environment changes, which is understandable. The flip side of that is well, if you're going to complain about housing affordability, something has to change, right? And this is, this is the way that the cookie crumbles. This is the way that life is. 2 sides to every coin. This would have been the best long-term impact. He's referring to making it easier for builders to permit. But the federal government could also juice the housing market in the short term by making it easier to buy a home. He says that could include offering a tax credit to offset closing costs, which certainly would help. And that's, like I said, that's really the best useful technique the federal government does have is basically just saying, hey, we'll give you a break on taxes. If you do indeed buy a home, closing costs are expensive. Here we go. You can make it up on your taxes and boom, home ownership. So something like that would probably be the best way to do it. A similar tax credit was offered to first-time home buyers during the Obama administration in 2008 when the economy entered a deep recession. However, the tax credit required an act of Congress, and it is unclear whether the executive branch could take a similar step on its own. So I do remember this. In fact, I had some colleagues that I work with now that at the time were of home buying age, and they took advantage of that. So I have a colleague that I work with now that I think bought his first home in 2010. So he was able to capitalize on the tax credit from Obama's term, and then also was able to capitalize on rock bottom real estate prices. And lived in the home for about 11 years or so, 10 years, 11 years, sold it and was able to put like half down on his forever home, and it worked out great for him. So hopefully that type of thing comes back around, because I do believe that a tax credit for closing cost incentive is really the best thing the federal government can do, and they can do it pretty quickly. The National Association of Realtors says it is in close contact with the White House and engaged in ongoing discussions on practical solutions to expand housing opportunities. The National Association of Realtors says it is, I just read that. If a national emergency is declared, NAR stands ready to work closely with the administration, Congress, and state and local leaders to advance targeted reforms that increase inventory, improve affordability, and keep home ownership within reach, says Shannon McGann, NAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Advocacy Officer. The administration's consideration of a housing emergency underscores the urgency we've long raised. Supply constraints are the greatest obstacle to affordability, with the nation short 4.7 million homes. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. We've been talking about that. I just said from 2010 to 2020, we did not build enough homes. Here's going to be where the problem is. We can only build in so many places. So areas like I'm sitting in right now, which is, I'm in Claremont, California, for those that don't know, and I am a suburb of Los Angeles. So I'm just about 35 miles east of downtown LA. So we're the greater Los Angeles area. So you think to yourself, okay, well, we have a housing crisis. We need to build some housing. We need to build some units. Okay, so let's build some houses. Well, if you come to a place like my neighborhood, there's really no places to build. The only place to build housing, it would be in a spot where something's getting knocked down. There are a couple of sites in our town where you're like, oh, okay, we could, it's an old kind of dilapidated building, bring a developer in, get this rehab, get it going. It's really expensive. And it takes a lot of time, which is what they're talking about changing. They're talking about shortening that timeline. But then when that happens, then you're talking about, oh, okay, well, we got rid of this old warehouse. We can put in 97 condos. Oh, I think 97 housing units. That's wonderful. Well, the problem with that is then you have 97 condos, and not everybody wants to live in a condo. Some people are going to buy those. They're going to rent them out, and then they're not going to really be affordable. And you could only get so many units in. 96 units in the grand scheme of things, even just in my town or just my county, is not going to make a bit of difference in the housing crisis. If you knock down all 5 vacant warehouses in my town and put 96 units in each place, still really wouldn't make a difference. So the problem is that we're seeing is, yes, we can build in some areas of the United States, Texas, Midwest, in the South, those areas, not a problem. But are people going to want to buy homes there? So that is the issue that the federal government's going to face the most when it comes to just build, baby, build. It's going to be one of these things where it's like, yes, okay, we need to build, but we need to build products that people want. And we need to build products that people want in places that people want them. So just building a tract of 400 homes in a suburb of Texas is not going to solve the problem. And it's really not easy to figure that out. So yes, we are short homes and we need to build, but we need to build correctly, and we need to build the right product for the right people. Bold, coordinated action is needed now to boost housing supply so more families can achieve the American dream of home ownership and the generational wealth it provides. On the first day of his current term, Trump ordered the executive branch to deliver emergency price relief for Americans on housing costs and other key living expenses, which was interesting because my first question was, how are you just going to declare that? That's like when Michael Scott just like declares bankruptcy in The Office. He just walks out and he's like, I declare bankruptcy. That's how I feel like the same thing that happened with Trump when he's just like, I declare that you'll deliver emergency price relief to Americans with housing costs. And you're like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? In a memorandum to the heads of all executive departments and agencies, Trump directed them to take action to lower the cost of housing and expand housing supply, as well as reduce other household expenses and boost employment. So just wave your wand and just do it. Just more affordable, go. It's going to be difficult. The memo ordered executive branch leaders to report back to the White House every 30 days on their progress in lowering consumer costs. but it made no reference to specific actions to be taken. There's your problem. It all sounds good. This is the problem with politics. It all sounds good, sounds rosy, sounds wonderful. How are you going to do it? We're not sure. We're going to figure that out as we go, which is usually not a good idea. Since then, the administration has moved forward with plans to identify federal land that could be opened up for affordable housing development. Again, guys, what did we just talk about? A lot of this federal land is national parks, which, is so funny. A lot of people that argued against Trump and his idea of opening federal land, their whole thing was like, oh, well, here we go. See what's going to happen. They're going to start building condos in Yellowstone. All of the U.S. national parks are going to be pillaged and gutted, and they're going to be given up for homes. That has not happened, and it's not going to happen. But the problem with identifying federal land, a lot of the federal land that could be used for developing homes is in areas that people don't want to live. That's why they're vacant federal land. That's why, the federal government took it over because we're going to use this to test bombs. We're going to use this to fly experimental aircraft. We're going to use this to train the military. It's like, it's not stuff that's like, oh, well, we've got a lot of federal land in a really pleasant part of, the Pacific Northwest that could really, we could make some housing out of this. No, a lot of it's in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. There's no infrastructure. So just building on federal land is not going to be the solution either. In the legislative branch, a bill packed with provisions aimed at boosting the housing supply and lowering housing costs has gained bipartisan support in the Senate, passing out of committee unanimously last month. A full Senate vote on the bill has not yet been scheduled. Known as the Road to Housing Act of 2025, the bill would create a best practices framework for local zoning and land use policies, which could be copied and implemented by local jurisdictions at their discretion. The housing crisis featured prominently in the 2024 presidential election, with Democratic candidate Kamala Harris touting plans to offer $25,000 in down payment assistance to certain first-time home buyers, which that would be tough to do. That would be very, very helpful. But this oftentimes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And if the government was ever just going to give people, now this doesn't matter because Ms. Harris did not win the election, but if she did and she was like, oh, we're just going to give 25 grand out, then it becomes like, okay, well, there's an income qualification and you're going to have to be a first-time home buyer, obviously. And you're going to have to, buy a home that's in this price range that, is in line with this. And you're not going to be able to do this and you can't sell it for this long. There's always strings attached. It's never just as simple as, oh, my down payment is 50 grand. The government's going to give me 25. Sweet. I only got to come up with 25. That's just not going to be the case. Would be nice though. Trump also promised to address the housing crisis on the campaign trail, vowing to slash regulations on home builders and saying he would get mortgage rates down to 3% or less, which obviously this is all hogwash. We know that Trump is facing problems at the Fed. We're going to talk on that in a little bit here, but we all know that the president was never in charge of interest rates. People said that when he was campaigning. They were like, you can say all you want, what you want to get done, but you don't have the power to do that. So, we're not going to, 3% is a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Mortgage rates have remained above 6.5% since Trump took office in January, leading the president to level bitter recriminations. I've never heard that word before, against the Federal Reserve for leaving the policy rate unchanged. Interesting. I'm going to have to look that word up. The Fed is now widely expected to cut its benchmark rate by a quarter point later this month, which has led mortgage rates down to the lowest level of the year, averaging 6.56% last week, according to Freddie Mac. Hi, Cackleberry. Thanks for joining the stream. It's always good to see you. Hi, Joe. What about limiting the amount of homes these private equity firms buy and then rent out? I don't know if that is possible or not. That is an excellent, excellent point. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk about that when it comes to, stuff on social media, stuff from kind of like just like the general public. I will tell you this. There is a little bit of an over-exaggeration of just how many homes private equity owns. The latest statistic I saw was that in total, private equity owns like less than 0.7% of all the homes in the United States. But where the problem is the concentration of where they own those homes. So like, for instance, Atlanta. Even though it's only maybe like 0.7% of all homes in the United States, in areas like Atlanta, they own a large amount of property. And that's what they do. They're build to rent communities. They're either building communities to rent them out, or they're buying multiple homes in a community to rent them out. This is a really difficult solution because on one hand, I do believe that the free market is the best market. I believe that the true value of something should be decided by the free market. I think the biggest problem is that the US government treats corporations as like people, right? So corporations have the same rights as a person does. And that's where it gets a little bit difficult. I do think corporations should be able to own residential real estate because they do provide a service to renters, like they provide housing to renters, and that's important. We can't discount renters. But maybe we need to talk about a limit. That I could see that, being something that's reasonable. I could see potentially a limit in a specific region. So in a given zip code, private equity maybe can only own, a given number, a given percentage. I could see that possibly working. But I do believe that homes should be for people, and they should not be for, mega corporations to make a bunch of money. With that being said, these corporate equity firms that own these houses, they're not buying houses. They're not writing an offer to buy a home. They invest in companies and own companies that buy homes and then rent them out. And a lot of these companies are funded by these equity firms that are holding regular Americans' investments. There is an extremely high likelihood that if you have a 401k, your money is invested in private equity that's buying residential real estate in the United States. So there's a very high likelihood of that. If you have any type of ETF, if you own any type of Vanguard, chances are you are participating in the corporate takeover of housing. So there's one thing to consider there is that this very same people that are saying, oh, corporations shouldn't own houses to rent out, are very large part are seeing their retirements go up because of what corporations are doing. So very slippery slope. I do think maybe limiting to some degree is probably the best solution. I don't think you could say no, corporations can't own property. I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. And I don't think they can keep going unchecked because you're seeing like areas, like I said, like Atlanta and the South that are just these renters are getting decimated by these corporations that don't care about them. So not a good thing. MH, hey MH, good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you're doing well. Let's go the Obama route. Make owning a home mandatory and fine you if you don't. Yeah, making a homeowner mandatory and fine you if you don't. Yeah, that's like the old healthcare thing, right? The old Obamacare thing. There would be people that would be up in arms about that. But I do think that his, the whole tax credit thing was probably the best way to go, and it did provide some relief to some people. It's hard to say because it's a completely different time, completely different economy, completely different situation and scenario. So hard to say if it would work again now, but I think that it would. If you're willing to give people a big tax break. So, all right, guys, are we done on this article? Yes, we're done here. So let's go over to this. And we're going to share this tab. All right, guys. So we're going to go to this one now. So Trump asked Supreme Court to take up tariffs appeal. So there you go, right? Just more uncertainty, more just like, let's do something and then ask the courts about it later. Yikes. All right, so here we go. So for those that maybe didn't make the live stream last week, which You missed out on a good one. We were talking about how Fed Governor Lisa Cook got the axe from Trump. Trump said, hey, you're fired. You committed mortgage fraud. And it was very obvious that Ms. Cook, she basically said, I'm not just going to accept this. I didn't break any rules and I'm not going to be bullied. So we have a little update because that was about a week ago. Some things have transpired. So there's Ms. Cook. Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook did not ever commit mortgage fraud, her lawyer Abe Lowell said Tuesday in a new court filing, bolstering arguments why a judge should temporarily block President Donald Trump from firing her. Lowell argued in the same filing that any of Cook's statements that she made on mortgage applications, which Trump has cited as the reason for her termination, do not give the president legal cause to remove her. Lowell said multiple federal government entities received her mortgage details before the Senate first confirmed her nomination to the Fed in May of 2022. The same information was disclosed to the White House prior to her appointment by former President Joe Biden, Lowell wrote. The government has long known about the alleged facial inconsistencies. Okay. Facial, like factual inconsistencies in Governor Cook's financial documents, he wrote. Because of that fact, the mortgage applications likely cannot constitute a legitimate basis for Trump to fire her, the attorney argued. So basically what they're saying, wait a minute, y'all knew about this and wasn't a problem then, and now you're saying it's a problem. So interesting argument, if it indeed is true. Okay, all right. He called Trump's purported reasoning for removing Cook a mere pretext, saying that the president's true goal is getting the Fed to lower interest rates. That's exactly correct. I don't think that is. I don't think anybody out here doesn't believe that for a second. We know that I forget the lady's name, but there was a Fed governor that just resigned very suddenly and just said, you know what, I'm stepping down. I wonder what information Trump had on her, or Trump's administration had on her. And then, he went after Powell for a while, Powell, and realized, can't mess with that. And notice he's been real quiet on firing Powell since he got on the governors. So basically what happened, he said, I want to fire Powell. His cabinet said that you can't do that. If you do that, the U.S. is going to be, the U.S. financial system, no one will ever trust it again, including all of our foreign investors. So they got him off of that. And then somebody finally went, well, if we get enough governors to outvote him, we don't need to get rid of Powell. We can just get enough votes to outvote him. So again, like I mentioned last week on the stream, it's similar to packing the courts, packing the Supreme Court when presidents have the opportunity to place justices in power. You want to pack the courts to get them in your favor, and then they'll vote your way on things. That's exactly what's happening with the Fed. Trump is trying to pack the Fed to get governors that will vote for lower interest rates so that he can have his way, which is low interest rates. He wants cheap money. He wants cheap energy. And that way he can get away with maybe some instability from tariffs, maybe costs going up in other areas. The Republican record is replete with Trump's comments demanding that the board, including Governor Cook and its other members, lower interest rates or face consequences in 2025, which is true. I mean, he said lower rates or you're going to face consequences. They said we're not going to lower rates, and now it goes firing people. It'll be very interesting to see the way that the Supreme Court rules on this. And normally I don't really care about court cases. Like it's whatever, it's kind of boring. This one, I'm like, I can't wait to see what happens with the Supreme Court on this one. All right, MH, what do you got? LOL, maybe he declared an emergency. He'll send in the National Guard to build houses and arrest homeless. Honestly, MH, sending in the National Guard to build houses would probably be more effective than sending in the National Guard to babysit in LA, or where did he go recently? Chicago? Yeah. Honestly, the National Guard would probably do more good if they did spend time building houses. That would probably get more done and be more beneficial to the people. Powell's term will end in May 2026. Yep, that's exactly it. And that's why, knowing that it'll end in May 2026, it's almost like by getting these governors in place now, and then I even think Trump will announce his replacement for Jerome Powell extremely early. And by having, and that would be that shadow president, right? Basically, Trump's going to say, here's the new Fed president. Here's all your new governors. Powell is still in charge for now. And then the new Fed chair is going to come out and say, As soon as I get in, we're going to lower rates. And then it's like, well, that kind of undermines, right? Circumvents Powell's ability and power. Lowell's filing came hours after nearly 600 economists signed an open letter warning that her potential firing threatens the Fed's independence and erodes trust in a key pillar of the U.S. financial system. Trump moved to terminate Cook last week. He said in the letter that she was being removed after Federal Housing Finance Agency Director Bill Pulte accused her of having committed mortgage fraud. Cook quickly sued to block her firing. Pulte initially accused Cook of claiming two properties, one in Michigan and one in Georgia, as her primary residence. He later made similar claims about Cook's mortgage for a condominium in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But Lowell said in Tuesday's filing that Cook listed the Michigan address as her primary residence and the Georgia address as her second home in a questionnaire previously submitted to the government, which this is totally fine. Primary residence for your primary residence makes sense. And then second home is totally okay. So that would be like a vacation home or if you just split your time between two places and you had a second home, that's totally fine to do that. He also said that as a separate questionnaire that she submitted shows the Georgia address listed as her present residence and the Michigan one as her present residence and current permanent residence. That questionnaire also called the Cambridge home Cook's present residence as well as a second home and rental property, the filing said. So we've got some conflicting information. MH, it'll just create a quick pop in the markets, enabling the big financial houses to turn a profit. Yeah, I agree. If those are factual contradictions, as the government and president claim, they certainly existed in the materials that Governor Cook provided as part of her presidential vetting and Senate confirmation process, Lowell wrote, essentially saying, listen, we've already told you about all this stuff. If you have a problem with it, you should have had a problem with it then. The government didn't care about it then, and now all of a sudden you care about it now. Kind of seems like it might be motivated by a different reason. He said senators or White House officials could have inquired about any alleged factual inconsistencies at the time, but did not. Noble economists defend Cook against Trump. In their public letter to Trump and Congress on Tuesday defending Cook, the group of economists said good economic policy requires credible monetary institutions. Credible monetary institutions, in turn, require the independence of the Federal Reserve. We stand with Governor Cook and with the institutional safeguards that have long underpinned American economic strength, they added. The 593 signatories include Nobel laureates Joseph Stiglitz, Claudia Goldin, Alvin Roth, Paul Milgram, and Paul Romer, multiple former Federal Reserve economists, and Christina Romer and Jared Bernstein, who led the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors under Presidents Barack Obama and Biden, respectively. So very clearly, we've got some people that they're basically just trying to show support, right? Like rally all of these people that know what they're talking about. My guess is that President Trump is going to get this letter, take a look at it, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash bin. The Economist noted that the Federal Reserve Act, which Congress passed in 1913, designed the Fed to be independent and insulated from day-to-day politics. Very important. The letter also notes that the attacks on Cook from Trump and his officials rest on unproven accusations. This approach threatens the fundamental principle of central bank independence and undermines trust in one of America's most important institutions, the letter says. That trust is a cornerstone of the system that has fueled America's economic vitality over the decades. And it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, it was the framework for many, many, many other developed nations' economy and banking system. And the reason that foreign governments love to put their money into American investments is due in large part because of the Fed. They know that day-to-day politics, week-to-week politics, this election, that election is not going to change. The Fed's goal is to shut everything out and ensure that Americans are working and inflation stays stable. That is what they want. They want Americans to be employed. The Economist also warned that weakening the high standard for removing a governor increases monetary policy uncertainty and forces markets to price political risk into interest rates, raising those rates and costs for families and businesses. That's another great point, is not only does it just create uncertainty and doubt amongst the international community and investing their money here in the United States, but then also what this does is this sets precedents so that now a Fed governor can basically be fired over like a rumor of maybe committing mortgage fraud, albeit low-level mortgage fraud, but still. If the Supreme Court upholds this, it basically is saying that, like, hey, if someone writes you a letter and says that someone may have committed mortgage fraud, that's enough grounds to fire them. Yikes. Seems like a slippery slope. White House spokesman Kush Desai, in a statement on Tuesday's letter, said the president acted within his lawful authority by removing Cook for cause, and this action augments the Federal Reserve's credibility and accountability for both the markets and the American people. Of course, very typical that they said that. The Fed appears poised to vote to lower its target interest rate by 0.25% in September, but Trump and his allies want steeper cuts. So, of course, we know that Trump wants steeper cuts. We know all of this. We get it. We understand that's what he's wanted the whole time. He's wanted low interest rates to juice the economy, to basically hopefully make home buying more affordable. What he doesn't understand, though, is that if he cuts rates too far and mortgage rates go too low, we're going to get a pretty active market again, and we are going to probably see prices increase, which is what people don't want. That may not happen. It could happen in some markets. It could not happen in others. We are still seeing multiple offers in some situations. I have a listing in Ontario, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, low HOA, cute community, just a nice home ready to go. Very reasonably priced in the terms of affordability. We got 6 offers, and it's going to sell for way over the asking price. So those affordable homes, those buyable homes, still have a ton of interest. So there is pent up demand out there. And if interest rates go way low, sub 5.99%, it's very, very likely that we're going to see a lot of increased activity from buyers. And that is why, we've talked about this. There could be a little opportunity here. I am not one of those agents that's going to tell you, oh, it's always a good time to buy. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're one of those buyers that's been kind of chomping at the bit, waiting on the sidelines, waiting for that right time, it could be upon us. The interest rates have already been cut from this anticipated Fed meeting in September. The interest rates aren't going to get any lower until next year, most likely. Inventory is the highest ever been. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. Right now, we are seeing buyers have the ability to negotiate closing costs, repairs, credits towards repairs, getting offers accepted below the asking price. So there is opportunity out there. So if you are a buyer, this could be a golden opportunity, because if rates go any lower next summer, it could start to get really, really wild. And we're at a time when inventory is pretty good across the board. And guys, if you are thinking of making a move and you need a real estate agent, here you go. Go to workwithjoerealtor.com. I'm going to post the link in the chat. If you need a good agent that is competent and capable, if you don't want to just look through Zillow and hope you get connected to the right person, search through Google reviews, do all this interviewing, all this legwork to find the right realtor. If you don't want to do that, I got good news. I will do it for you. And I will make sure that you get hooked up with a top tier agent, what we call a 20% agent, an agent that is in the 20% tier, in the upper echelon, one that really is trained and knows how to help you. So if you are looking at buying or selling anywhere in the United States, I have a great referral network of agents set up all over the place. And I would be happy to help you get connected to a good agent. So hit that link in chat. You can click on any of these buttons or boxes, any of these, and you'll get connected to me. And there will be a little form you can fill out that information. I'll get you connected to a good agent. And if you're in the SoCal area and you want to work directly with me, go to the website, shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to work directly with you, whether you're buying or selling. We'll get you taken care of. And if you haven't already, hit that like button down here. Somewhere it's right down here. Hit that like, helps push the stream to new people. And if you haven't considered subscribing, please do consider subscribing. It's totally free. This is the type of content I put out Pretty straightforward, straight shooter, just try to put out the good stuff. So if you haven't liked the stream or subscribed, please do so. Guys, we're coming up on 50 minutes, a little bit of a shorter stream tonight, but Joe had a really long day. We were negotiating a couple different deals today, multiple offers on one property, sending out counter offers on another property. So Joe needs to go eat dinner and he needs to go recharge the batteries a little bit. I always appreciate you guys hanging out. We had great viewership tonight on the stream. Really appreciate you guys giving me some of your very, very valuable time. It really is much appreciated. I enjoy talking with y'all. Hope you found the stream useful. If you did, come on back next Wednesday, 6:30, same time, same place. We'll be talking about more great real estate stuff. All right, guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much for giving me the time. Hey, go out there, be a positive light in the world, do something nice, hold the door open for someone, let someone in traffic. It's crazy out there. Be kind. All right, guys, have a good one. See you point blank. See you next time. Bye, guys.